dangerous being from the underworld has invaded to take over the planet, and it's brought its minions to roam this ark. I have to take down all of the wardens, then work my way through the mega bosses and eventually the warchiefs. On top of it all, I only have 100 days to defeat all of these bosses. This is Annunaki Reborn. So starting out on the beaches of Viking Bay, I saw the first glimpse of Age Reborn in the distance. A desert titan casually chilling by the starter zone. Despite him being there, I was mainly focusing on getting all of the starting tools and that. Then I made a prime cloth hat which has 0 durability. Then I suddenly got 1 tap.
Okay, yeah, it was too clean.
Bro, come on, that was the first death in the mod. Why did I die so early? Like, Jesus. I tried getting back to my body, but he was being quite adamant about leaving me alone.
Okay.
Then I noticed the desert titan was moving my way, so I just farmed and crafted new tools instead, so that guy. I killed my first innocent shinken for its hide and meat so I could have some KFC later. Oh, I didn't stop there though. I had to gather more meat to satisfy my bottomless pit. One scrawny shinken isn't gonna cut it. I then started placing down my newfound structure since I plan on living here for now. I then ran up to the lake where you can easily farm some metal and crystal, but I noticed quite a few red health bars floating around. Those were roaming bosses.
Oh god.
So I got my pick out and I started gathering some metal and crystal for now.
Men plocka upp blomman för helvete.
I had gathered quite a bit and I was gonna go back to base to melt the raw metal, but then I got targeted by the desert titan's lightning attack.
Oh no, I have the lightning! No! Wait, I'm gonna die. I don't think I'm gonna die, right?
Then I got my stuff back and I ran back to base to melt down the metal. We had a CKF mod installed, so I built myself a settler's table since I like the design of it. It's very clean. After putting down a few foundations, I then put down some forges so I could melt the metal. I had to gather a bit of wood for the new base build, then I made a few foundations that I just placed down. Nothing too fancy, I don't know how to build. While I was out, I ran into a jerboa in the wild that can passively produce all sorts of kibble in the soul terminal.
Is my Fist of Fury not doing enough?
It took me a while to knock out this jerboa though. And then I tamed up an elite dodo as well, since it can produce ancient hide and dodo eggs that I would need for making health potions. I eventually knocked out jerboa and tamed him. I named him Joachim. Day 2, I moved up my foundations a bit further up the spire, because I didn't feel quite safe down there. Then I started working on my new base. I ran out of resources quite often, so I had to run down to the beach to farm some wood, only to be hit by a server crash. It took quite a while for the server to restart, but as soon as I logged back in, I started hearing some reapers on my beach.
I can hear a reaper! Why is the reapers here? No! No! Oh my god!
I tried getting my kit back, but the reapers didn't want to leave me alone.
Need to lead the reaper away somehow. Oh my god,
Even baiting the reaper away was actually quite difficult.
God damn it. Why is she running over here all the time?
Speed. I don't understand it.
I'm out of stamina, great.
After that annoying encounter with the reapers, I started building the base again. On day 3, I went for another crystal metal run since I got the metal tools so I could gather more. On my way back towards base, I ran into a crystal wyvern I wanted to tame, so I rushed back to my base to make myself a grappling hook so I wouldn't fall off from the back of it. But I didn't have any cementing paste or chitin, so that was out of the question. I was just gonna YOLO it, and I noticed that unfortunately I didn't meet the required level to tame it, but he took me on a wild ride either way.
Well, I do not feel safe up here.
I took out a few turtles for their keratin so I would be able to make some cementing paste and get to level 65. And then I saw him, he was literally on the beach and I just went for him without the grappling hook.
Imagine if it's gonna stop at 99.9 now. Oh my god!
I eventually tamed him up and got my first flyer. Not really what I expected for a first tame though. Bright and early in the morning, I grabbed a bit of paste from a beaver dam, then I went for a cold swim to pick up a few silica pearls for electronics later. Then I tamed up another elite dodo before heading home. I flew into the ice cave to grab a bit of oil and killed off a couple of penguins for their organic polymer so I could make a soul gun and a teleporter. Back at base, I made the fabricator so I could make some electronics later. I crafted an awesome teleporter as well, so getting over to the base wouldn't be too much of a nuisance anymore. Yeah. I then flew over to the highlands to look for any sheep to kill for their mutton that would help out taming some of these dinos. I could not find any sheep at all in the highlands, so I met up with the keys instead and I traveled up with her for this run. She has been enjoying doing these 100-day challenges a lot. I went over to the desert area to look for any sheep to kill, and then I found one after searching for quite a while. Then back at base, I checked my soul terminal and I noticed that the jerboa had produced quite a bit of kibble. Not bad at all, I would say. In AG Reborn, we have different kind of tranks we can use at our disposal, but I found out that the AG darts were too expensive to make and they almost did the same as improved trank arrows, so we just went with those almost the whole journey. While I was out flying, looking for tames, I spotted an obsidian jug bug that I tamed up since these bugs are extremely important for making steel ingots in this mod. I'll explain it later when I'm gonna make the ingots. In this mod, it can apparently spawn bosses from other DLCs. I heard Rockwell. There is Rockwell there, what the hell?
Oh my god, he's literally just in the desert.
Then I tamed up 2 more jerboas to speed up the production for kibble. Then I teleported back to the base to make a few oil rigs to passively pump oil from the ground. I had gathered all of the necessary resources for a chem bench that will be great to use for making narcotics. Then a bit later I grabbed a bit of honey from beehives. Then I got attacked by a rock drake and I ran into Kitty Cat. Oh, I cannot get away from this! Because I have it saved. I got back to my body, I retrieved my gear and then I continued grabbing a bit more honey. But the rock drake just couldn't leave me alone though. He just couldn't.
He got you.
On day 8, I was starting to build the greenhouse because the health potion in this mod requires an astronomically large amount of crops and honey. Then I ran out of crystal for the greenhouse walls, so I went to a cave to grab a bit of decent amount of crystal. I then made a few layers for the crop plots to max out the production as much as possible. On day 9, Akisa felt extremely poopy and was asking me to flush the toilet for her multiple times. That's kinda weird, right? Nah, I was just kidding. We were just doing the toilet trick to get an infinite amount of fertilizer since I had no dung beetles yet for the greenhouse. At the start of day 10, I had set up a few beer barrels for the gardener because she wouldn't work if she wouldn't be given any beer at all. What? Then I placed down the drunkard gardener and I basically let her do her job. On day 11, I logged in with Virons being inside my small little base. Who put them there? A bit later, I flew out to the desert to chainsaw a couple of dead crabs for some polymer, since I wanted to work on getting an industrial forge eventually. A Utahraptor wanted to come and say hello. Oh my god. While I was out flying around looking for tames, I came across a golden dodo. So I told the keys to help me tame this one because this is a very important tame, so I grabbed it with my Viron's claws and I brought it back to base to knock it out. The dodo just killed me through the window, like... What?
Sleep.
We finally tamed it after quite a bit of trank arrows later. Okay, so let me explain real quick what these are for. The golden dodos are an extremely important tame since they can produce 2 very important things in the soul terminal. It will produce instant health potion, 100%, and golden treats. The treats are the very best thing to use to tame dinos with, because they only require one, and the dinos in this mod tend to eat pretty slow. There was also a silver dodo in the same area, but these are not tameable and you can kill it for silver treats. It basically works the same as golden treats, but they aren't as effective. On my way back to base, I saw a unicorn I kinda wanted to tame up, so I jumped off my wyvern only to be eaten by a raptor.
Oh no, the raptor's gonna kill me! Oh my god.
Then I got back to the unicorn and I gave it a kibble. I didn't stick around since it would probably take a while for it to tame up. After I flew around for quite a while, I finally stumbled upon my first Alpha Allosaurus. The Alpha Allosaurus is a mandatory tame to get, since they were the only ones who weren't aggressive of the Alpha tier. I flew around for quite a while, until I saw a high level one. 420... I found one lurking in the desert biome, so I tamed it up with the silver treat I got from before. Otherwise, this would have taken me half an hour or more to tame. Now I would only need a female to start the breeding procedure. Taking a break from the exploring, I started upgrading my base a bit now, because the settlers could basically break by one bite from any dino out there. I continued building my base even at day 15. I then made the AG Reborn forge that can make steel ingots at a very fast rate. It has now been 2 days and the unicorn has lost about 700 food, even with our super fast rates. So this is basically how it is to tame certain dinos in this mod with normal kibble, so the treats are basically the most important thing here. Bruh. I went out again and I found the 480 level Allosaurus. It was not the greatest but not the worst either, so I gave it my hearty treat and I picked her up. I came across a Majangasaurus as well that has a horn on its head, so I knocked it out so I could gift it to Kisa since she likes creatures with horns.
It's beautiful!
So at the end of the day, I started breeding the allos so I could have an imprinted baby. It was finally time to make the steel ingots, so let me quickly explain why these are so important in this mod. The steel ingots are the AG Reborn's own ingots that are needed for almost anything, including saddles, summoners and gear. And not only that, but a few creatures can passively produce ancient hide, chitin and alpha blood, which are a few ingredients needed for crafting AG Reborn stuff. So the golden dodo produces one instant healing elixir, 100%, and a golden treat. The Easter bunny, ancient pelt and ancient polymer. Alpha dodo, ancient blood. Elite dodo, ancient hide. Elite some dodo, ancient chitin, obsidian jugbud, yeah. And the jerboa, all types of kibble. So that's practically it about this mod. At the end of day 16, I had made the saddle for the Alpha Allosaurus, and then I took it out for a spin and it did some quite impressive damage. On day 17, I went out to look for an Alpha Therizino so we can get our hands on some rare flowers and fiber, but know this. Alpha creatures are a passive tame, and some of them will attack you if you're not wearing something called an Alpha's hat. I didn't have one on me at that time, but I did a cheeky method for it though, which kinda worked out. I had then finally tamed him up and I saw another golden dodo, so I grabbed it and brought it back to base. Then I finally tamed it up and I put it in a soul terminal so we had double the production of golden treats.
Borb.
On day 18, I went over to the swamp to grab a bit of fiber, flowers and mushrooms for the beehives. Then I flew over to the Carno cave, which is now an ab zone. We had installed the aberration map extension to Ragnarok to make it a bit more interesting, so I grabbed a bit of metal and gems. Awesome. So thanks to the gems, I was able to make myself a glider suit so I didn't have to use the grappling hook and, fall to my death. On day 19, I crafted up some healing elixirs which were tremendously expensive to make. Then we went out to kill a prime alpha with our allos, and as soon as I jumped off my allo, it got mind controlled by a noggin that resulted in me dying.
Okay.
And I see the Noglin.
Akisa did the very same thing. Good job. And not too far away, we actually ran into Prime Alpha Indominus. Okay, so to get our own Prime Alpha Indom, we have to drop itself to below 5% HP, then it will drop a fertilized egg we can raise. This only works on females, however.
Nothing so far.
It was now day 20 and it still didn't drop an egg, so we figured it might be glitched, but then it dropped an egg when we killed it.
Oh, it did drop an egg.
Dropped an egg.
Afterwards, I took the Theory out to farm quite a bit of berries since the health elixirs were just too expensive to make. Still, after farming all of those berries, I couldn't make too many health elixirs because it required a vast amount of honey as well. So I traveled out to tame up some queen bees so they can passively produce honey in the soul terminal. I believe it's faster in the terminal. Also, I forgot to mention it, but in this mod, you can evolve dinos into other powerful stages, but the requirements are quite big and you need every bit of apex drops out there to evolve them. We then took on our first roaming mini-boss. We eventually killed it and it gave us the trophy and some element. The trophy, however, is used for evolving your own Dinopithecus into an alpha. Then a bit later, I found a high-level Prime Flame Indom that we could raise and eventually evolve into an alpha variant. Now take it, there is a lot of elemental variants out there, but the Flame is the only one who can be evolved into an alpha. Akisa joined to help me out so I could watch over it to see whenever it would drop an egg.
Die! We took your children.
On day 21, I was basically just looking over the Indom evolution choices. Mind blown. So, if we wanted to actually progress and kill all of the bosses in this mod, it was crucial that we get some Prime Alpha T-Rex eggs because these ones can be evolved into a legendary Alpha Rex. That is the one and only creature that can stand up against the world boss. We tried luring it further down the mountains and dropped itself with the bleed. The explosion ability was extremely dangerous and did huge damage to the allos. We tried waiting patiently until it dropped an egg, but Akisa got sadly killed by the Rex. Then I finally saw it. It finally pooped out an egg, so I killed it and I unlocked a bunch of engrams, including the age reborn Tech Replicator. So I decided to swim down to the mushroom cave to build a small outpost to raise all of the babies because I didn't want to risk of losing them to some wild dino swooping in for some quick snacks. This is also one neat thing with this mod. All of the drops in this mod is modified already, so they will have custom loot in each beacon. I had then finally moved all of the babies to the new area. I then went out to tame a few snails so I could have some cementing paste. I knocked out also a zombie poison wyvern and I tamed it up since it would be somewhat of an upgrade from my crystal wyvern.
Oh my god! How did I take... I took no damage there.
Nice. On day 23, I was basically just letting the allos smash so I could have some more backups.
This is the same with the Indominus.
The next morning I logged into the server and some babies had finally grown up to adults.
So what we should do for this one is we should go and kill everything for this. So we can evolve it. Because if we can evolve it, we can breed it with the female over there. Wait, yeah, the female over here. Or we can go and look for an alpha female again.
On day 25, we were curious if we could evolve an alpha Karchar, so we worked on knocking it out.
Oh, hopefully that's enough. Oh, that was enough.
Ah, jeez. We finally knocked out the Karchar by day 26. It took a really long time to get that one knocked out.
Jesus. That you can't even evolve it.
There was also a pretty high level female Alpha Rex in the same volcano, so we started dealing damage to her. The bleed is exceptionally good, maybe too good in my opinion.
Oh
Jesus.
no! No, we're stuck here now.
Oh no.
After lots of bites and bleeding, the Rex finally dropped an egg that a snake wanted to join.
The snake is trying to take it.
So, every time you kill an Alpha Rex, you get an essence from it, which is used in the recipe to evolve the Rex. And unfortunately, it didn't come out as a male Rex, which we needed to start breeding these.
No, it's a female.
On day 27, I picked a fight with an Alpha Griffin that can kill you off your mount. That is so dumb, I hate this. A bit later, I wanted to try taking on my first Warden boss with the Indominus, so I sent in my minions and they did so much bleed damage, jeez. I eventually killed it and I unlocked the Warden shield engram and got a bunch of loot. The Warden trophy and element is for summoning warchiefs, so that's super important. I took on a Prime Alpha Gaia as well, which was pretty easy with my Raptor minions. And then I took out an Apex T-Rex also. I don't know what kind of tier it is, but it was kinda easy. Go, my minions, go! Well, since we already had high-level female Alpha Rex, I took out the low-level one since it was practically useless for breeding. Damage gap was pretty huge going from the Alpha Allo and Indominus to this.
And it does like an explosion attack every time it bites.
So then I went ahead and took out a Rhino Warden boss. Those Raptor minions are just too good in this mod. King Daddy DMAC was the next target to take down. If you guys didn't quite catch it, but all of these wardens gives off warden engrams, so you practically have to kill specific ones for each engram.
Oh, he's pretty cool.
There was a max level 750 Alpha Indominus, so me and Akisa started damaging it. And like before, this one had also an issue dropping an egg. And then a Giga came in to join the party, killing the Indom, but luckily we got an egg.
Oh, Mike, you cashed it.
I did? No, that was the Giga.
The Alpha Indom came out as a female, so that means we can breed these Indoms and make a more powerful baby. Then I tried taking on an El Diablo, but the Raptors didn't do any bleed damage to it at all, so I didn't bother anymore. I went for another Warden instead that could take bleed damage. I had killed an Apex Carno that had its corpse hanging in the sky. I dismounted my Indom and didn't realize there was a wild Prime Utahraptor in the group. Anyways, the next Warden was next in line. The Raptor minions were annihilating the boss. And not too far away, I took out Spike, the Warden of the Jungle. That name reminds me of The Land Before Time, I remember. Oh my god, I am just getting used to seeing red messages at this point. Now I would only have 4 more Wardens to defeat, which was a Mosa, Giga, an RG and a Crocodile. And towards the end of the day, I was gonna attempt taking out the Prime Alpha Griffin to unlock the engram, but I was hit by yet another server crash. This is unbelievable. Well, it took me a while to get back in, but I went on to kill a few Indoms and Rexes for the trophies and Apex drops. And then I continued killing off a few more here and there, Gigas and Indoms. The next day, we went for another Prime Alpha T-Rex that we led down to the beach. We got it pretty low and it dropped an egg. Oh, there we go. There's egg. Go on. So I put it in the hatchery to incubate it and I went out to kill a Dinopithecus. What? And apparently the Rex can summon minions, so I had to look up the controls for it. But it was Control Q. What? A bit later, we were finding a savage T-Rex and the minions I summoned, you can apparently ride them.
I'm a minion now. Whee! Oh, I do so much damage, but I died. Did you see how much damage I did?
We eventually killed the Savage Rex and unlocked Tech Transmitter. But we couldn't make it quite yet though, since we didn't have a tech rep or a generator for it. So the Alpha Rex we got from before hatched into a male, so now we have a pair of them so we could breed them. Oh my god!
Yay!
Unfreaking believable. It happened again. The G-Portal server crashed again, so I got so pissed off, so I turned off for the day.
What a complete joke.
On day 34, I was taking on a Kijun, the Supreme Tiger. He didn't drop anything special at all. Nothing. We went down to the app area to grab a bit of element ore and metal. I honestly don't know why we farmed element ore. We started taking out a few dinos in the desert area. We didn't know at this point, but the Age Reborn tech dinos can be harvested for a lot of element that you need for warchief summoners.
Alright, railgun, helmet, and leggings.
Not far away, we ran into Prome, the Mega Dodorex, which are basically for unlocking engrams into making each warchief summoner.
Now we're pumping out damage, you see that?
It took a while to kill him, and he could basically destroy my Alpha Rex if I didn't pay attention to my health. We also took out an Apex Giga, which dropped a crap ton of pods and rockets that Akisa loves. Back at base, I then made the Age Reborn tech replicator since we saw that it had the island boss spawners in the mod for unlocking tech ramps, so we decided to work towards that. The next day I just casually was swimming in the deep ocean with my Rex, killing all of the squids for their tentacles.
What do you think the squids are thinking when they see like a Rex?
I also grabbed the artifact too, since I was down in the trench.
Oh, we're gonna clip
I went
it,
to kill a
but-
few bacillus too, since we needed blubber. I spotted the spooter swimming in the ocean, so I went to attack it. It wasn't too difficult to kill, honestly. Akisa decided to take me to the labyrinth, since she needed some help getting the artifact for the island summoners. Akisa kinda led me here because she knows this dungeon inside out. After we completed the labyrinth, I went out again and I saw a tech mosa close to the beach that I took out without any issues. It was being barbecued by my Alpha Rex. It was finally time for us to fight an El Diablo Giga. We could stun him with our Rexes, which helped out quite a ton. Every boss seems to do some kind of reflection damage too, so the minions kept on dying because of that.
This is crazy. Nice, that was our first Diablo.
I need more leeches.
After that, I went into the corner cave to grab the cunning for one of our summoners.
Found it.
So with that artifact acquired, we were able to make the dragon alpha spawner, and then we summoned the dragon in.
Whoa.
He survived with only a sliver of his health left. But we killed it and unlocked the replicator, but we were still missing out on the generator and such. So then I went on to work on getting some Spinosails and Thericlaws for the Megapithecus boss fight. I then made the monkey spawner and I summoned him on the beach. We unlocked the generator now, so now we will be able to make the tech transmitter
I use
to
it?
scan for dinos.
Mirror. Oh my god.
At the end of the day, I took out an 8 Reborn Tech Giga so I could get a tremendous amount of element and black pearls.
Oh.
Damn. Okay. Think we solved the element problem.
Then I went for one of these SC Tech Rexes, which gives about the same amount as a Giga. When I was hunting for a Tech Trike, I spotted a Mega Gorilla,
What was that?
so I switched to attacking him. And what do you know? He can apparently kill you off your mount, like... What is this? What is with these stupid gorillas in this mod? Like... Do they have some kind of thing against me? I hate them so much, the Dogs Monkeys have given me PTSD. On day 42, I gave up fighting that gorilla and I started extending my base a bit since the tech replicator was kinda huge. I had started raising my Alpha Rex army as well, just in case. I had to go for quite the metal run because I was constantly running out of metal ingots. The next day, I took out my next warden, which was Pikkon, the warden of the sky. I basically kept him stunned so he wouldn't fly away. Then I went over to the swamp to take out the Croc Warden afterwards. Then a Mega Spooter rudely interrupted us and joined in only for it to die. Goodbye, Spooter. And then towards the end of the day, we started fighting our last warden, which was Morma, Warden of the Depths. Actually, I honestly didn't realize, but it took us until the very next morning to kill him of constant left clicking. After killing the Morma, we went back to the labyrinth and I got unknowingly killed by the gates.
Bruh.
Nice.
And back at base, I started making some basic tech armor since it's used for making the Warden armor. The Warden armor works exactly like a tech armor, but the mobility on it felt hell a lot smoother and clean. Next day I went out to farm a bit of metal again, since we ran out of ingots for making the steel ingots. It was a lot easier to farm now with the Warden armor. I had one of these prime tech rifle, which shoots like an assault rifle. It was amazingly good. We then fought the Mega Gorilla and it was extremely laggy for some reason. My 4090 couldn't keep up.
That is so laggy.
He basically annihilated my Rex army, so it was only up to us to take him down. We did kill him, but the only thing we got was a few artifacts. On day 47, I spent a little while farming metal and crystal again, because I was constantly running out of it like usual. Then I made a Warden Tech Bow, which is incredibly strong to knock out Dinos with. A bit later I tamed up the Easter Bunny, which can passively produce some stuff I need. And back at base I made a boss tribute box, which is a special taming food for taming boss dinos. There was a max level ghost Dodorex in the desert that I started blasting with arrows. The Warden Tech Bow was incredible. After a bit of chasing the Dodorex down on day 48, it finally went out cold.
Well,
I then tried out the Dodorex on a Warden and it does some good bleed on it, which was very good. On day 49, there was a Rockwell boss that had spawned in the desert again that we fought and killed.
go attack Rockwell. Dude, some dodos! Attack the heart.
They can't even like do damage to him.
They can't reach the heart, bro.
It rewarded us with a few more levels to our characters. The next day, I found a ghost dodo wyvern that I started blasting with trank arrows to knock out. The tech suit was pretty fast and I could outrun it.
There we go.
Outfly it? Whatever. I eventually knocked it out and then we tamed it. I logged in the next morning to my base being cleaned out. Akisa had robbed me.
What the hell is this robbery? Bro!
She told me that she was working on a base in secrecy and it was finally done to be viewed. So here it is. I then picked up my army of T-Rexes, so we had a good supply of them ready on standby. A bit later, we then took on the Vulthurial. I might have butchered the name, but it's a mega dodo wyvern boss. He gave us access to summoning the warchief dodo wyvern at least. The day has shifted and we have started attacking Nahagaliv, the Mega Manticore. These names are so hard to pronounce. But suddenly, in the midst of battle, a Pegomastix took my teleporter again. I have PTSD from that still. It took a real long time to kill it because of its damage reduction, but we unlocked the next warchief summoner at least. Now we only have the dragon left to kill to get all of the warchief summoners unlocked. On the very next day, we went to take out our last mega, which was Alduin. The battle music for these fights are amazing, but sadly they might contain copyrighted material, so I couldn't include it. We eventually killed the dragon, but we didn't unlock any warchief summoners, so there was something wrong here. But there was a Robo Dragon nearby, so we killed that one instead and we got the warchief summoner.
Could be. Are you serious? Why did this guy come?
But yeah, the very next day we were finally ready to take on our first warchief boss, so I made a Spooder spawner. Then we summoned it in the desert area and we started blasting it with attacks.
Jesus! This is quite a light show.
Talk about too many lightning effects, which kinda hurt my eyes a lot. We killed our very first warchief and we got the Selitha spawner and core engram, which is for crafting our own warchief. So from now on, we had decided to work towards all of the remaining 5 warchief summoners, but we were lacking out on warden element and trophies, so we spent the next few days killing all of the warden bosses we could possibly find.
Well, there goes the croc, only 2 trophies. I have to go and kill more.
It is now day 65 and it was time to take out Gnashor, the Dodo Wyvern warchief.
God, it's so many Rexes. Oh, you're going over there. Okay, I'll keep roaring them.
Oh my god, look at this whole army.
We then killed it and got the Zephyrus core and spawner to make our own Dodo warchief. And the very next day, it was time to take out Perdition, the Manticore warship, which seems to take a while to kill. It literally one-shot all of the Rexes that we previously used for the Dodo Wyvern fight. We then ran into a problem with our damage, so I went back to base to make the Selitha Dino. I came back and then we started seeing some good damage finally. Then we finally killed it after a while, but we got the Hephaestus spawner and core from that. I didn't actually notice this, but apparently all of the warships have a one-shot ability that can be used to kill lesser creatures. It does over 1 billion damage.
Was that negative? I think I saw a negative number there.
Now that's a lot of damage!
And then back at base, we made the Dodo Wyvern warship. And it had a really cool looking model, not gonna lie.
Oh my god! Did you see this?
Oh! We tried taking out the warden with our warships, but they did like no damage to him, so we didn't know what was going on. We decided to take on 2 spooters in the swamp. It was relatively easy. And for the next few days, we just killed a lot of tech dinos for element and black pearls. We had to go and farm wardens again, because we were lacking on warden element and trophies yet again. This is one of the few things I don't really like about this mod, but you're gonna reach like a point in this mod where you have to spend hours and hours grinding warden bosses. Then it was finally time to kill the 3rd warship boss, Niloc. I basically kept him stunned so he wouldn't fly away. But then again, we finally killed him without too many issues. Then me and Akisa split up to go and kill wardens again. So it's day 77 and we're literally still killing more wardens on this day. It was now day 78 and it was time to fight the monkey warchief boss. He did some good damage to us and he killed Akisa Offer's Spooder.
Oh, he killed me.
But yeah, eventually we killed him and we got the engrams. The next day, it was finally time to fight Rabaim, I think, the warship Dodorex. It was extremely strong of a boss, and it took us an extremely long time to kill him also.
Jesus, what a light show.
He's about done stun.
Oh no. Yeah, I can see that.
But we finally killed our last remaining warship and unlocked all of the warship engrams. So, with us killing all of the warships, we unlocked the engrams for making our own legendary Alpha Rex.
Well, heck yeah.
But making these cores and Rex tributes wasn't exactly cheap, so we were gonna farm 2 of each item so we can get the breeding pair of the legendary Alpha Rexes. Then for the next few days, we went out farming all of the requirements. I was farming tech dinos while Akisa did the same. We killed a crap ton of Rexes for the tributes, and the most annoying thing to get was the Rex trophy and essence.
Oh, no trophy.
So after spending a few days just killing Rexes and Rexes and Rexes, we finally made the last 2 legendary tributes for the Rex. Then I evolved my Rex into legendary.
Oh my god.
Whoa, Jesus, bright as heck.
That wasn't scary at all, was it? Jeez.
And boy, he was gorgeous.
Oh my god. Look at the health.
And the next day Akisa made hers, so all we had to do now was to let them grow up so we could breed them again together. So for the next couple of days, I was basically just preparing all of the Rexes to grow up for the last boss fight. I then went out to try the legendary Rex out, and it was a massive damage boost. We then discovered we had a special ability that did so much damage it was unreal. This is definitely the one and only for beating the last boss.
Damn. Oops.
I then decided to make the last remaining warship bosses to try them out since we were just waiting for the Rexes to grow up at this point.
Oh my god! Look at this boy.
So cool. Yes.
Oh my god, so green. Okay. Bokito. What the? What is this? Oh, damn! Dodorex. Nothing. See? Some kind of nuke. X. Whoa!
So the Rexes had grown up, so all we had to do now was level them up and then it was time for the final boss. It was then time to fight the last boss of this mod, so we lined up all of the dinos we were gonna send in for this fight.
You ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
We're down to half the bosses.
Oh, nice.
Oh, Bokito almost died.
We finally killed the world boss, but it came to my attention that during testing we had been using the wrong affinity the entire time, making this whole mod much more harder for us. When we did kill the boss, we got an artifact pack that gave us all of the artifacts from the game. Alright, so I definitely had a good run on this mod and I hope you my viewers enjoyed watching it. One quick rant about the mod though. I do wish there was some kind of actual guide on how to properly set up the server with proper affinities and such, because that was almost a disaster to find out on the official Discord. A couple of other overhauls have suggested settings for difficult levels and I would like to see that on more mods. Either way, my configs will be available to download, all you have to do is join my Discord. So, if you do enjoy watching my content, please consider subscribing and liking the video.